Hi, Elaine here from markergeek.com. This week I'm filling in for Sandy on the Stamping Bella blog for DT Thursday. And since Sandy has been unable to do any of her usual fantastic project tutorials for the blog this week, I thought I would go back and remake one of her earlier tutorials just for fun. So I have filmed the entire process for you. I'm remaking Sandy's mini pizza boxes following her instructions, which I will link in the description below and in the blog post. I decided to use a couple of the new Rosie and Bernie stamps. I thought they'd fit this project really well. I'm using Put a Stamp on It Rosie and Put a Stamp on It Bernie, along with the coordinating die set. You can see right now that I'm cutting apart the die set as I hadn't used it yet. I'm just using some of the snips. You can get these at Stamping Bella as well. They're very handy for cutting apart those coordinating dies. And I'm lining up the die on my stamped image, and I'm going to cut it out using my die cutting machine before colouring. I've stamped these images using MFT Extreme Black ink on Strathmore Bristol smooth surface paper because I'm doing a little colouring with Zig Clean Colour real brush markers. As you can see, I'm just choosing some colours using the handy colour charts that I got from Jennifer Maguire. I'll pop a link down in the description to those. Those are really handy if you've got the Zig markers. I chose some Prima Marketing ink paper and chose my colours to coordinate with that. And here I am doing the colouring. I'm using the pen blending method, using the lighter colours of the pens to blend out the darker colours to get some shading. These stamps are really good for doing some just really quick and simple colouring with products like the Zig markers. They're so easy to colour up and so quick. It takes hardly any time at all. So if your focus isn't colouring or you just need to colour something up really quickly, these are perfect. Plus they're adorable, which is a bit of a bonus. I'm going to pop a little bit of music on as I colour the rest of little Rosie here and then move on to her friend Bernie, and then I'll come back to you for the creation of the boxes. my image is all coloured, I decided to reinforce the die cuts with some die cuts from some blank cardstock, just to make them a thicker element for the top of those boxes, to make them really stand out. Again, I've mentioned this before, but this is something I often do just to reinforce die cuts, which is another reason why I love having coordinating die cuts. It makes this process so much easier. And now I'm done with those two, and it's time to move on to creating the boxes. I've got my Martha Stewart scoring board, and I'm scoring according to Sandy's instructions. The cardstock has been trimmed to 6 inches by 11 inches. And on the 6-inch side, I scored at 1 inch and 5 inch, at the 1 inch and 5 inch marks. And then on the 11-inch side, I scored at 1 inch, 5 inch, 6 inch, and 10 inch. Then it's time to trim the tabs, trimming the outer tabs and the central ones. And when you're trimming the tabs, you want to make sure you kind of give them a tapered edge so that they sit inside the box nicely when you put it all together. I used a 250 GSM cardstock from Paper Mill Direct here in the UK. It's a nice, sturdy, lightweight cardstock. I'd recommend using at least the cardstock weight that you'd use for your card bases. And when all of these are trimmed, I'm going to apply my adhesive to all of the tabs. You could use a liquid adhesive. I used score tape for this as it's nice and strong. And I will say that I'm not usually one for doing many sort of non-card projects. I do have fun with them when I find the time to do it, but I don't often do them. But this one came together really easily. Sandy's instructions are really simple and really helpful. Here you can see I'm just folding over all of those scored edges and using my bone folder. Once all the adhesive has been applied to the tabs, it will be time to start decorating the box. You do this before you assemble it and stick all the tabs together. I cut a piece of white cardstock to 3 7/8 of an inch by 3 7/8 of an inch, and 3 smaller pieces of cardstock to 7/8 of an inch by 3 7/8 of an inch. I then took my pattern paper and trimmed a square at 3.75 inches and then 3 strips at 0.75 inches by 3.75 inches. This is all listed in Sandy's post, along with step-by-step pictures, if you find that easier to follow along. I will have a link to that post as well as my own post in the description below. Sandy decorated her box slightly differently, so you can get some more inspiration. Here you can see those pattern paper pieces and card pieces that I had already cut. I used a pearlescent white cardstock for the card pieces. And I'm just layering those up and using my Fabri-Tac liquid glue to glue them all down. Choosing my sentiment from the new Stamping Bella birthday sentiment set. And I'm stamping my sentiment using my MISTI just to make sure I get it lined up on one of those pieces of pearlescent cardstock. I'm just stamping it using a black ink. Unfortunately, I'm slightly out of frame there, but I'm sure you've seen the process before. I'm just stamping the sentiment. And as usual, I use a piece of acetate sheet to get things lined up. Although that didn't turn out to be completely necessary this time, as I ended up trimming the piece down anyway to fit on my project. I'm just figuring out the layout here before I glue everything down, trimming that sentiment down. And then, as I mentioned, I will use my Fabri-Tac liquid glue to adhere everything on top of the box. And actually, before I do that, I'm just going to grab some Distress ink in black soot, in hickory smoke, to just add some inking to the edges, just to give some extra interest and definition to the edges of that patterned paper. And I think I'll also add it to the sentiment strip. One of the reasons I like to use a liquid glue like the Fabri-Tac glue when gluing down my layers is so that if I get things slightly wonky, I do have a little bit of time to kind of slide things around a little bit and get them lined up. I'm not the greatest for putting things down straight initially, so this is a good way that I can get things lined up as I want them. When using tape, I find it a little bit more frustrating. When all of the panels are all glued together, it will be time to apply them to the box. It's best to do this while it's flat. It's easier to get everything glued on and straight. You could do it when the box is assembled, but it's just easier this way. So yeah, I'm now going to grab that box, lay it flat, and apply the panels with the Fabri-Tac liquid glue again, so that I can kind of shift things around a little bit. And then when those panels are all adhered, it is time to assemble the box. So I'll be removing the backing from the adhesive on the tabs of the box. Starting with the base of the box, and really it is just a case of folding the tabs in and pressing them so that the glue adheres, and it's really simple, as you will see. These were really easy to make. Once you've made one, as I found, the second one comes together incredibly quickly. So thank you to Sandy for her easy to follow instructions. When I had completed this box, I went straight on and put together the Bernie box, which went together in exactly the same way. And then I embellished both of the boxes with some Tonic Nouveau glitter drops, and that was it. So if you would like to see the full step-by-step instructions for this so that you can follow it easily, I have popped the link in the description below to Sandy's original post. There will also be a link to my blog post for today with all of the product details on it. And thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time.